Okay, here we go. We're going to go over the test. And so speak up, by the way, unmute and speak up if you have a question. Otherwise, I can't hear you if you're muted. So for the first question, we had to find, let's see, number one, f of x is 5x minus 1, and g of x is 3 plus x squared, and we had to find f minus g of 2. Well, f of 2 is, let's see, 10 minus 1 is 9, minus, and 2 squared is 4 plus 3 is 7, and so we just get a 2 there, don't we? Okay, the next one, number 2. We have f of x, this is number 2, minus 2 times x plus 3, and first times first, and that's 5x squared. So that equals 5x squared. And then last times last, that's minus 6. Minus 6. And then the product of the insides is minus 2x, and the product of the outsides is 15x. And when you add those up, you get 13x. And there's the answer. Just ask you to multiply. Oh. Okay, number 3, no questions so far, huh? So f of x equals 2 minus 8x. F of x plus h equals 2 times 2 minus 8 times x plus h. And so that equals, we've got to expand that, we get 2 minus 8x minus 8h. You have to distribute that negative in the 8. And then, so f of x plus h minus f of x over h equals, let's see, in place of f of x plus h, we'll write 2 minus 8x minus 8h, and then minus that. Well, minus 2 is minus 2, and a minus times a minus 8 is a plus 8x all over h. And now the 2's add out, the 8x's add out, and we've got minus 8 h all over h, and the h's divide out, and we get minus 8, don't we? Okay, everybody's happy with that. Now let's do number 4, graph f of x equals x squared minus 1. Well, here's what it looks like. And it said label the vertex and intercept. So that's 0, negative 1. This is 1, 0. And this is negative 1, 0. Good, x and y. And state the domain and range of that. So 5, excuse me. 5, the domain equals negative, it's all reals, negative infinity to infinity, the range equals smallest y value is -1 to infinity. And that took care of that. Okay, let's do number 5, or 6, excuse me, 6. And this is what we had to graph. This is 6. F of x equals x plus 3 for x less than or equal to 0, or -2 for x greater than 0. So xy. If x is 0, here we get a 3. So 0, 3. We can't now, we can pick any value less than that. Well, -3 will give us the y-intercept, or x-intercept, -3, 0. And then we just graph and it goes forever, doesn't it? So that took care of this part, all the values for x less than or equal to 0. Now we go to, if x is greater than 0, we go to -2. Well, that's down here. And since we don't have an equal sign associated with this inequality, we'll make an open circle. That's 0, -2. And that's just y equals -2. And that's what it looks like, isn't it? So does anybody have a question on this yet? Okay. So we'll do 7, and the domain, this is number 7. The domain is the -5 to 4. And the range is -3 to 5. So this is the smallest x coordinate. So we'll come up with some ordered pairs here. This is the smallest x coordinate, and it's going to be here at -5, -5. And it's the y coordinate's going to be -3. So there we are at -5, -3. And then it's the largest x coordinate is 4. And the largest y coordinate is 5. So we're going to go up here to 4, 5. And then we just have to connect these, don't we? And we're done. No question? All right. Now we'll do number 8. And by the way, what we're talking about, we're starting at this point right here, 3, -3. We're starting at that point, and number 8 says y equals f of x plus 2. That means we're just going to add 2. That's a vertical transformation. We're going to add 2 to -3, and what do we get? We get 3, -1. We just added 2 to the y value, just changes the y value. Now let's do 9, and that's y equals f of x minus 5. Oh, so now the y value isn't going to change, but the x is. And how will we do that? Well, we'll set x minus 5, whatever's there, equal to 3, and solve. And we get x equals, adding 5 to both sides, 8. So now our new point is out here at 8 and -3. There's no vertical transformation. we'd need a value out here where the only other value is 0, and 0 plus -3 is -3. So now let's do 10, and we get y equals f of x minus 4 plus 6. So we'll add 6 to the y coordinate. So here we are at 3. We'll add 6 to that. So 6 minus 3, that's going to be our new y coordinate. And to find the new x coordinate, well, we'll set x minus 4 equal to that 3 right there. X minus, excuse me, I don't need parentheses. X minus 4 equals 3. Adding 4 to both sides, x equals 7. So that's going to be 4 plus 3. So that's going to be 7. And 6 minus 3 is 3, isn't it? And so we went over 7, and here we are at 7, 3. And that's 10. So we said they'd be on there, and they're there. Okay. Now let's do number 11. And that's 9a times 7 over 54a to the 5th minus a cubed over 27. So this equals, now listen, do you multiply 9a times the numerator and the denominator, or just the numerator?
Just the numerator.
Just the numerator, right. What's in the denominator here? I'll tell you what, it's a 1, isn't it? So that's 1 times each of those denominators, but 1's understood. You don't have to, it's the only number that's understood. You don't have to write it down. Now the next thing, if you look at the directions, it says write as 2 separate terms, reduce. If you add fractions or something, it's all wrong. You're not following the directions. So here's the easy way to do it. And is this going to show up on the next test and the test after that and the test 3 or 4 more times this semester? Yeah, it is. So why not get it straight right now? Same question every time, different numbers. Why not get it straight right now and never give up another point for this thing? So I have 9a times 7 over, and 54 is the same as 9 times 6 times a to the 4th. A times a to the 4th is a to the 5th. Minus 9a times a cubed over, and 27 is the same as 9 times 3. Now here, these 9's divide out. Those a's divide out. What are you left with? 7 over 6a to the 4th. Minus, those 9's divide out. A times a cubed is a to the 4th over 3. Okay, that's all there is to it. It's on the repeated test question video. It's on test after test after test coming up. You know what happens in the algebra class every fall semester, every spring semester? A number of people are dedicated to, I don't know what they're dedicated to, but they get it wrong. By the end of the semester, everybody's doing it right. Why wait till the end of the semester to do it right? Put a little time and do it right now, and then don't give up any more points for this question. Okay. So we've got to find domains. 12. F of x equals 5x minus 1 over x times x plus 1 times x minus 22. So the domain equals the set x such that x is not equal to. We can't have division by 0. That's the only reason we're going to exclude anything from this domain. If you replace x with 0 here. In other words, what we're going to do, we're going to find what makes every one of these factors equal to 0. Consider this. We'll set each factor equal to 0 and solve. X plus 1 equals 0. X minus 22 equals 0. Well, this is already solved, so x can't equal 0. Will you agree x can't be negative? If we let x be -1, we'll get 0. So x can't be -1 because we'd have division by 0. Will you agree if we let x be 22, we'd have division by 0, so we can't let x be 22. So the domain's all reals but 0, -1 or 22, because every one of those values would make that denominator 0, you see? Okay, is that question going to show up again? Many times. So please get it straightened out, because you're giving up points for nothing. It's so easy. Okay, that was A. This is B. And we've got g of x equals the square root of x plus 11. Well, we've got to guarantee that whatever's under that radical is greater than or equal to 0, because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So we'll go x plus 11 is greater than or equal to 0. Now we're guaranteeing that whatever under there is greater than or equal to 0. So if we subtract 11 from both sides, we get this, and there's the domain. Equals the set x such that, and that's it. X has to be greater than or equal to 0, otherwise we'll be trying to take the square root of a negative number. So do you have any questions? No, I know you don't, Kristen. No. Yeah, you've nailed it down. So if you religiously do the videos, you can't miss on this stuff, because every one of these questions are covered on the videos. If there's a question you don't quite get on the videos, just give me a phone call or email me. We'll get together anytime that works for you, for the both of us on Zoom, and go over any question you want. But if I don't hear from you, I don't know, you know. So it's really important. And keep in mind, I used to wonder when I was young, and, you know, you're sitting in a class and you wonder, what are these guys trying to flunk us out or something? You wonder what the motives of the instructor were. And so, you know, I mean, did they even care? Let me tell you, I care. The fact of the matter is everybody at this college wants you to succeed, wants you to succeed. It is a pain when you have to give a student a grade they don't want. It's no fun. We're on your side, but you've got to let us know. On the other hand, if they don't, they get the grade they earn. Students get the grade they earn, but you try and set them up for success. But you got to communicate. Let me know, because I'll help you all I can. So let's go on to the new stuff. And as I said, we backed off that, we're backtracking on that schedule. So let's go right to 2.1, do a couple of problems, 2.2, a couple of problems, and 2.3, a couple of problems, okay? I'm just going to hit it. Now you speak up, unmute. If you don't get something I do, speak up. But these questions are all on the videos too, also. So those videos are a big deal. And let's see, where do I have to go? Oh, yeah. All right. And I'm assuming you have your, in fact, I can just go through the book and pick them off. and I'll do that. You have the questions in your on Canvas, and it says we're talking about lines, equations of lines. And so for lines, equations of lines. And we're talking straight lines, no curves. A curve's a curve, a line is, in mathematics, is a straight line. See? And so there's the point slope. And given a point and a slope, you can write an equation for a line that's y minus y sub 1 equals the slope m times x minus x sub 1. By the way, m is the slope. And so m equals y sub 2 minus over x sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 1. So that's how you find the slope. You need 2 points to find that, but if they give you, if you have the slope and 1 point, you can write this equation. Finally, there's the slope-intercept form. And that has the structure y equals mx plus b, where there's the slope again. And this is the y-intercept. Okay, now first question on the next test, I think it says find the point slope form of the line. And we're going to do a few of these right now. And I'm just going to march right through them. But you have the video, and I'm going to, this is being recorded, I'm going to send it to you. But you have the video that does all these problems too, and you can stop and start that video and back it up. You know, it's just a YouTube video. You know how to do all that. So. Let's see, we've got equation says find the point slope form and the slope intercept form of the line with the given slope which passes through the given point. So I'll just do one of these, and m equals 4 and the point is let's have a point, -1, 2. We want to come up with a point slope of the line that passes through, has this slope and goes through that point, and then we'll come up with the slope intercept form. Well, you know this, we need y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So I get y equals parentheses, and I have a minus here and a minus there and an x there. Now what's the slope? It's 4. Okay, that's what goes there. What's the y coordinate? It's 2. So y minus 2. What's the x coordinate? It's -1. Now we have to simplify this. We can't leave double signs. So that's y minus 2 equals 4 times x, and minus times a minus is a plus. And that's the point slope form. Got it? Point slope form. That's our answer right there. It has to be simplified, no double signs. Now we'll get the slope intercept form. So to get the slope intercept form, we'll expand this we get y minus 2 equals 4x plus 4. Add 2 to both sides, y equals 4x plus 4 plus 2. So y equals 4x plus 6. And there's the slope-intercept form. Okay, two different forms. You have to know them both. Do the video. All right, let's do another one. Now we're given 2 points. We have to find the point-slope form and the slope-intercept form. So let's come up with a couple of points. I'll just make something up. Let's see. -1, -4, and 5, 7. We've got to come up with a line that passes through those 2 points. So first, let's find the slope. So m equals, and I'll stick to 7/5. Then the minus signs. Oh, and now I have a -4 is the y value. -1 is the x coordinates. So that equals 7 minus a -4 is 7 plus 4. And 5 minus a -1 is 5 plus 1. So it looks like we get 11/6. So there's our slope. Okay? So I'm going to erase. Now that I've got the slope, I'm going to erase this and write down m equals 11/6. And now we'll take either one of these points and do the point-slope form of the line. So I might as well take this. Y minus equals 11/6 times x minus. I'll put a 7 here and a 5 there. Yep. So y equals, add 7 to both sides, plus 11/6x minus, and 5 times 11 is 55/6. So y equals 11/6x minus 55/6 plus, and I need a 6 here, and so we've got them. How many 6 are in 7? Well, 6 times 7 is 42, isn't it? So 42, right? Another way to write 7, 42 divided by 6. Now we've got a common denominator, so y equals 11/6x. And let's see, we need 42, and what is 55? I think it's 13. -13/6. Yeah, and there's our slope-intercept form, and here was the point-slope form of the line. Okay, multiplication of fractions, adding fractions, we did them both. Oh, graph and find the x and y intercepts. Okay, we've got to graph something and find the x and y intercepts. So let's graph, how about this? Y equals -3x plus 4. xy. Well, I would say, and I'll write f of x. Okay? What's f of 0? And I get f of 0 is 4, isn't it? So that means we have a y-intercept at 4. 0, 4. And now f of x equals 0. Find the x-intercepts. That means this equals 0. Minus 3x plus 4 equals 0. Well, to solve that, we've got minus 3x equals negative 4. Dividing through by negative 3, we get x equals 4 over 3. So 4 over 3, 0. We had to graph the intercepts, and we just labeled the intercepts, and we just did, didn't we? You're good with that? You know what I did? No questions? Okay, so that took care of 2.1. Yeah, 2.1. Now we'll do 2.2. And we'll do some problems. It says, solve the equation. Absolute value of x equals 6. Then we've got to solve this. So what we'll do, we'll set x equal to, by the way, the definition of absolute value is this. Absolute value of x equals x for x greater than or equal to 0 and negative x for x less than 0. That's the definition of, so then x here equals negative 6 or 6, right? Will you agree the absolute value of negative 6 is 6? And the absolute value of 6 is 6, 2 answers. Okay, we're going to do a lot of that. So now let's solve this one. So 3x minus 1, the absolute value of that equals 10. So either by this, if x is negative, if this is, excuse me, not x is negative, if this is negative, whatever inside the absolute values, then we'll rewrite this in this manner. And if x is positive, if whatever's in here is greater than 0, we'll rewrite it in this manner. So if this is less than 0, we'll replace 10 with negative 10. If all this stuff is greater than 0, we'll just leave 10 as it is. We're going to do that every single time. Now we'll isolate x. So we get 3x adding 1 to both sides equals negative 9. Dividing through by 3, x equals negative 3. Here, 3x will add 1 to both sides equals 11. And dividing through by 3x equals 11 over 3, doesn't it? And here, if you replace x with negative 3, you'll get a negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10. Absolute value of that is 10. If you replace x with 11 thirds, the 3's divide out, and 11 minus 1 is 10, and you get it. Okay. Now, we're going to graph. And this is a big deal. We're going to graph absolute values. And that, those quizzes I sent today has you graphing an absolute value, or a couple of them. So let's graph this. F of x equals the absolute value of x minus 3. Well, what value of x, and we already did horizontal and vertical transformations, what value of x will make that 0? And will you agree 3 will? You let x be 3. And you know absolute value is always positive, isn't it? Or zero, always positive or zero. Can this ever be negative? Can this thing, can it ever be negative? No. So it's going to start right here, and it's going to go up in either direction. If you replace x with 0, what do you get? What's the coordinates of that point? 3, right? And we just graphed it, 3, 0. Okay? Always it's a V. It either opens up or it opens down, but it's always a V. Okay, let's graph one more. I'll see if yeah, let's graph this. F of x equals the absolute value of x plus 4. Well, that's just the absolute. Absolute value of x plus 4. Well, I'm just going to start right here. If x is 0, we're at 4, 0, 4, right? Just a vertical transformation, isn't it? No horizontal going on there. Same rules apply as we had on earlier work. Now let's go to 2.3. In 2.3, it says to graph the equation and find the intercepts and domain and range. Okay, we'll do that. So let's do one. By the way, you all know that y equals x squared looks like that. So we're not going to plot a bunch of points. And also, y equals the absolute value of x looks like this. So we're not going to plot a bunch of points. We know what the graph looks like, and we're going to just move it around. With that said, by the way, what's the domain of this? It's all reals, and the range is 0 to infinity, right? What's the domain of this? It's all reals. There's no variable in the denominator, no variable under a square root symbol, and the range is 0 to infinity. So now let's grab this. Equals x squared plus 1. Well, we just graphed something like that on this test we just took. And here we are at 0, 1. The domain is negative infinity to infinity. There's no possibility of division by 0. There's no possibility of taking a square root of a negative number. And the range equals 1 to infinity, doesn't it? Okay, and we've graphed it. Now let's do another one. F of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. Well, we need to get, first of all, the domain's all real, so we can see that. But we need to get this in factored form. So first step, factor, and it factors and x and 4 and 2 and a minus and a positive. And check it out. The product of these two is x squared. The product of those two is negative 8. The product of these two is minus 4x plus 2x is minus 2x. So it works out. Now let's graph it. And let's see, we have a y-intercept at -2 and an x-intercept at -2 and another one at 4, because -2 will take that to 0, 4 will take this to 0. The y-intercept is -8. Well, what value is halfway between -2 and 4? And that's where the vertex is going to be. It's always going to be halfway between. So the distance from -2 to 4 is 6, isn't it? Distance is 6. Half of 6 is 3. So we'll add 3 to -2 and I get 1. Subtract 3 from 4 and we get 1. So that the axis of symmetry is 1, is on this line. Well, to find out what the y value is, we'll let x be 1. So we know this is going to be 1. And f of 1 equals negative, replacing x with 1, we get a -3 times 3. I get -9, don't you? Check it out here. 1 minus 2 is -1, minus 8 is -9, -9. So that's what it looks like, and I guess I'll have to drop. Oh, I'll have to adjust my point a little. My artwork is, anyhow. Yep, that's the point right there. And this point right here is 0, -8. So now the question is, what's the domain? Well, is there any variable in the denominator? No. Is there any variable under a square root symbol? No. So it's all reals, isn't it? -infinity to infinity. What's the range? What's the smallest y value? It's -9. Bracket -9 to infinity, isn't it? Okay. And how are we doing for time? We're doing good. Do you want to do another one of these? Everybody understands it? You're good. Okay, well, let's take our time now and we'll just start this 2.4. And then you come in with questions tomorrow. And we don't do any calculator work with these. It's all by hand. You come in with questions tomorrow, we'll go over them. So let's see, 2.4. So I've got to solve the inequality, write your answer in interval notation. Oh, I see. We don't have to graph this. Write your answer in interval notation. Okay. Well, we are going to graph it anyhow, because I want to check on that test. You might have to graph it on the test, so I want to make sure we do it the way the test asks the question. So let me check that out. Oh, I see. No, we don't have to graph it on the test either, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's just solve some, and I'll march right through the, we'll just march away. And here's the story. If you have the absolute value of x is less than or equal to c, here's our big objective. First objective, we've got to get rid of the absolute value bars. That's a big objective. Once we get rid of the absolute value bars, we can solve. And there's two forms, that or absolute value of x is greater than, I'll make it greater than c. I could make it greater than or equal to. Here's how you get rid of, if you have the orientation, if this is pointing to the left, then it's real easy to get rid of the absolute value bars. You just write minus c is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to c. And you go ahead and solve. You're done. Isn't that easy? If it's pointing left. If it's pointing right, then you have two cases. X is less than negative c, or x is greater than c, depending on whether x is greater than or equal to 0 or less than 0. So that's a big deal. If you see it, it makes your life easier. You understand it? Now let's see. 3x minus 5 is less than or equal to 4. 3x minus 5 is less than or equal to 4. So we've got to solve this. So, since the inequality is pointing left, we can just dispense with the absolute value bars by going negative 4 is less than 3x minus 5, which is less than or equal to 4. Right? Now we've got to get x all by itself. Our goal is to have x all by itself. Well, to do that, first thing, we'll isolate the term with x in it, then isolate x. So we'll add 5 to both sides, to each interval. Add 5 to each interval. So we'll put plus 5, plus 5, plus 5. And so we get 3x here is less than or equal to 1, which is less than or equal to 9. Right? Now, we've got to get x all by itself, so we'll divide by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3. They divide out here, and we get 1/3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay? Now, you know, anytime you divide or multiply through by a negative, you have to flip the inequality, but we didn't do it. That didn't happen here, so we didn't have to do it. Now let's do another one. 7x plus 2 is greater than 10. 7x plus 2, absolute value of that, is greater than 10. Now we have to do the two-case thing. So we've got 7x plus 2 for 7x plus 2 less than 0. This is the case. 7x plus 2 greater than or equal to 0. This is the case. So if this is the case, we write that as less than -10 and we go to work. If this is the case, and we say 7x plus 2 is greater than 10. Now let's go to work. We'll subtract 2 from both sides, so we get 7x is less than -12, or x is less than -12 over 7. Or, and here, 7x subtracting 2 is greater than 8, or x is greater than 8/7. So there we have them, and they're connected by the word or. And if we were to graph those, here we are at -12 over 7, open circle, everything to the left, and here we are at 8 over 7, open circle, and everything to the right. You see? You're in one or the other. Okay, so that's it. We went through it pretty fast. What's today, Tuesday? So we've got Wednesday. You know what we'll do? If we we're not going to review Wednesday. We'll review Thursday. Have a test Monday. But I'm relying on you to come in with any questions. Now, if there's enough questions, we'll postpone the test another day. So if you come in with questions, and those quizzes are due, so try the quiz. If you have a problem with the quizzes, I'd be happy to do a problem like them. You know, I want you to get those points. So I think what we'll do, I'll just set this ahead a day, because we might need another day later on. I'll set it ahead one day. So we'll review Thursday, test Monday, come in with the work done, see what you come up with if you have any questions, would you? It helps you out, helps me out. And if you need to retake a test, let me know. But you only have 10 days to do that, you see, so you got to